This is my love letter to saving throws. It is a classic mechanic, one that I fell in love with when I first started playing D&D. But it started in war games. It is also present in many other systems, from Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40k, and many others have it in one way or another. Why did I fall in love with saving throws? Well, the one system I played for the most, more than 10 years I have spent playing this system, is 2nd edition. And I love it because you have a saving throw chart, and that saving throw chart is the number you need to roll, given a d20 to resist certain special attacks, to survive them or at least reduce their damage by half. So if you're subject to death magic and you're playing a priest, you're only 1st level, you need to roll a 10 or higher. If, however, a dragon breathed on you and you wanted to try and take half that damage, you'd need to roll a 16 or higher and a breath weapon. Each of the different classes had their strengths and weaknesses, and this is something I absolutely fell in love with. Of course, attributes could help in some respects. Dexterity was one of them. The defense adjustment, if you had a high enough dexterity, at least 15 or higher in 2nd edition, would allow you to add a bonus to the dice. So in reality, it actually reduced the number you needed to roll on the saving throw. But adding to the dice was just as simple. So if you had a defense adjustment of -2, you'd add 2 to your dice roll, making it that much easier to avoid special attacks that you can see and you can dodge, fireballs, lightning bolts, and the likes. Wisdom also played a very big part in resisting mental attacks, from fears to hypnosis, charms, illusions, possessions, etc. In fact, if you had a high enough wisdom, you became immune to a load of spells. Constitution also had a little bit of a hidden saving throw that I absolutely loved. System shock. A resurrection survival to a certain extent, but system shock. Oh, I just absolutely love the idea of this. You go through a polymorph, either beneficial or harmful, and you must make a system shock roll. Your body is undergoing tremendous trauma, and it's your ability to keep your mind clear whilst going under that trauma, for your body to survive in some cases, or just to avoid being stunned and unable to act in other cases. System shock was a fantastic mechanic and a great saving throw. In 2nd edition, the saving throws were something that I absolutely loved, but they had a big problem, which is as you went up the levels, the saving throw got easier and easier. As we can see, returning to the saving throw table, at 1st level, a warrior would need a 17 to save against a spell. But by the time they reach 17th level, they only need a 6. It goes from almost failing every single time to having a very good chance of succeeding. It's even more pronounced when you look at paralyzation, poison, and death magics. To poison a 1st level warrior, they need to roll a 14 or higher. However, by 17th level, they just need 3 or higher. There were ways as you gained the levels where you could tip the balance back in your favour, allowing your spells to be more potent, but they often involved casting another spell or relying on certain spells against certain classes. It was difficult, and generally, and I played a few mages back in the day, the moment you get to about 14th, 15th level, your spells are more often than or not bouncing against your opponents, and it becomes a frustrating exercise. The concept of the 2nd edition saving throws, though, the type of attack being what you're saving against, with a couple of attributes applying modifiers, it was really good. We then come to the last D&D game that I ever played, which is 5th edition. The saving throw now became your attribute, and the type of attack no longer applied. It was all about what attribute was used to avoid the special attack coming in. And this kind of made sense. You know, a fireball comes at you, it's your dexterity to leap out the way. Your mind is being invaded by illusions, it's intelligence. You're suffering with an intense fear, it's wisdom. And with the proficiency bonus, it gave strengths and weaknesses to different classes. You also had a DC, a difficulty class to save against, and this was decided by whatever you were being attacked by. If it was a wizard, the DC was based on the spell slot they used. The more powerful the spell, the more difficult it was to avoid. If it came down to a creature, often that would be individual to the creature. This made, when I was running games, a little bit of a slowdown in combat. I would have an ability being lobbed at one of the party. I'd ask for saving throws, and they'd roll dice, very eager to make their saves with the big question, what number am I trying to reach? And I would, if I didn't already have that number to mind, have to quickly go back to the creature and have a look and look it up and make sure, or recalculate it just to make sure I had the right number. But it did solve the one problem 2nd edition had, which is saves becoming far too easy as you went up the levels. I think 5th ed, however, introduced a slightly different problem, which is as you reach the higher levels, the saves that you were proficient at, you were really, really good at. But the saves you weren't, they were becoming harder and harder and even harder to succeed at. I remember running the last campaign, the party were in epic levels, that's beyond 20th. And when I hit them with the saving throw, unless they were using magics to try and protect themselves, they were either passing the save quite easily or it was a struggle to make the save. Intellect Fortress came into its own to protect the barbarian. Otherwise the barbarian would have been failing every single intelligence save. At least now he had a chance of succeeding. So, this is my love of saving throws. And when I was looking back at the kind of saving throws I wanted for Untold Destiny, I love the idea of attributes playing a bigger part in your save, but I also love the idea of saving against a particular attack. And I believe classes should have strengths and weaknesses based on the attacks that they're most used to dealing with, especially when they're training. So this is why within Untold Destiny I have the sort of classic saves, as it were. Saving throws against a type of attack, and I've kept to the 5, they make perfect sense. A gaze attack, including any ray-based abilities. Items, which include things like wands, staffs and bombs. Contact, any creature that needs to have contact with you or poison on a blade. Breath weapons, which includes also fireballs and lightning bolts, which fill up an area that you can avoid and attempt to evade. Spells, which fall into none of the categories above. I also have some secondary saving throws, which I love from 2nd edition. Raw Strength, which was the bend bars and open doors. System Shock, which carries over from Constitution to avoid that tremendous strain and shock to your system. And Awareness, which I kind of borrowed from 5th edition's Passive Perception, but made it more into a saving throw. Your ability to avoid being surprised or to negate the bonus of someone who's attacking from hidden by becoming aware of them at the last moment. And then the classes each give you a dice you roll, a number of dice. You take those number of dice, you roll them, you take the highest and you add the appropriate attribute to the attack you're facing. So for example, if it is a fireball, it will be a dexterity breath saving throw. A poison cloud will be a constitution breath saving throw. If that total is 20 or higher, as all DCs in Untold Destiny are 20, you have passed your save. But you may ask, how do you get better at your saves? Well, really you don't. This is your innate ability to resist these special attacks. It can get better, but it's difficult. Generally, this is your chance of resisting. And a fireball is a fireball. Whether it's from a low-level wizard or a high-level wizard, that fireball is the same. It comes in, it explodes. The intensity of the fireball, now that varies. A low-level wizard won't do as much damage as a high-level wizard. A high-level fireball would incinerate you if you failed your save, whereas a low-level one, even if you failed your save, you're walking through unscathed. That's where the difference comes in. Your saving throw is your innate ability to resist, and I've always seen it as this. Your class plays a part, how your class has been trained, the dangers they've been put up against. This can also lead to some very interesting tactical thinking. You might have several attacks available to you, a number of spells. One is a gaze spell, another one is a breath, the other one is a spell save. Which one do you launch and at which targets? You don't want to target your tough opponents who have a great constitution with anything that relies on a constitution save, and especially not something that relies on a breath if it is a rogue, for they will easily be able to get out the way. When I look at the way that I brought this together, I am reminded of the 2nd edition saving throws, which I love so much, the special attacks. But I'm also reminded of the 5th edition saves, which seem to work very, very well given the 5th edition system. The two combined, I believe, is the best of both worlds in a very simple framework. A dice plus an attribute, and you need 20 or higher. The humble saving throw, how I love it so much. And I would hope that when you get an opportunity to play Untold Destiny, you will fall in love with our saving throws too.